Why don't you tell Des Pennington when you came to America?
When I came to America, I started at this school.
Yeah? How old are you?
5 years old.
5 years old, yeah.
How old are you now?
I'm 8.
Oh, so you've been here, this is your third year.
Yeah,
How do you like
where did you come from?
Iraq.
Iraq.
Great to see you.
Yeah.
You all have connections to the region, I think, and so I won't go into too much of the history of this. I mean, I think it's fair to say that that the situation in Iraq obviously radically changed in the summer of 2014 with the emergence of ISIS, and especially changed in northern Iraq, in the areas where your community has deepest roots. I was Consul General at our consulate in Erbil at that time, and so I experienced that situation firsthand, tragedy of that moment. And I, thinking of the Chaldean community, I remember very well, very vividly, the first days after the massive displacement of people from the Nineveh Plain, mostly Christians. I remember going to St. Joseph's Church, was Bishop Warda was a neighbor of ours in the consulate. If you've been to Ankawa, you know the church is right outside of our consulate. And so I went over to the consulate, and I was amazed because there were thousands, literally thousands of people who had fled in the courtyard of the church. They were sleeping in the church, they were sleeping in the courtyard, there was bedding everywhere, there was people cooking huge amounts of food, and the community was rallying really in a situation of dire emergency. And I think despite the tragedy and the horrible things that have happened because of ISIS, one of the things that stuck with me when I returned from Erbil was the resiliency of your community in the face of those circumstances. So since that time, since those awful days of 2014, I think we've seen a lot of progress obviously on the military side in pushing ISIS out of Iraq, to the point that today we estimate that ISIS has lost roughly 2/3 of the territory that it controlled in Iraq, that has now been retaken by Iraqi forces, either the Iraqi military or the Kurdish Peshmerga. And as you know, the military campaign is right now very intensely focused on the situation in Mosul. Eastern Mosul has been liberated, much of the Nineveh Plain has been liberated, which I know is of concern, a specific concern to your community. And now the battle has moved to West Mosul. And as you've undoubtedly seen in the reports coming out of West Mosul, the military fight is very, very difficult because of the urban terrain, the narrow streets, and the fact that there are still probably 400,000 or 500,000 civilians living in that very small area of the center of West Mosul. So that campaign is ongoing. The Iraqi forces are doing reasonably well with a lot of support from the United States and our coalition partners, of course. But it's a slow, difficult, tough fight. Frankly, it could be faster, but that would be at the risk of civilian lives. And I think the Prime Minister has made the decision that he is going to prioritize civilians. It is a fact that ISIS targets civilians. Much of its military strategy is predicated on the idea that first objective is to hold territory, but the second objective is to cause as much destruction and death, particularly for civilian populations, as possible. It seems like it is an incredibly twisted view of the world and how things should work, but that is the enemy that the Iraqi forces are dealing with. So it's very, very difficult. All of that said, there is no doubt, and last time I was in Iraq a couple of months ago, there was no doubt, either in Baghdad or in Erbil, that the military campaign was going to be successful, that ISIS will be defeated in Iraq. And so that is going to happen. It's going to happen within a matter of months.